Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sports on a Positive Tip, where we have conversations at the intersection of sports and faith. I'm here with Kenny Squared. And Kenny, late breaking trade last night. I'm sure there'll be several more this morning. Looks like teams made a lot of their moves yesterday, but I'm sure there'll be several more today. But did you see this? Jonathan Kuminga finally gets his escape from San Francisco here, along with Buddy Hield, who's been traded a lot as well. But they go to the Hawks for Kristaps Porzingis, and I found that trade fascinating. Number one, because I don't think the Hawks know that they're trading this guy with such talent, and it's just a puzzle as to why it didn't work out in Golden State. And he's only 23 years old. Kuminga, I'm talking about. Hill is a serviceable player. But does it shock you that Porzingis' career has become just this kind of journeyman that gets traded like every 5 minutes?
It is a little surprising, especially when you look at how his career started.
Yeah.
And obviously the Knicks hit the reset button by trading him to Dallas. But then since then, it kind of seems like he's gone from place to place. It seems like he's like the hired gun that's not there for very long.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm surprised because it seems like he has more talent. Maybe it's the injuries that kind of concern people, but Golden State's a good spot to be. You've got the best 3-point shooter in the world. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if he's healthy, he could help the Warriors make a little run here, in the playoffs. Um, it's so interesting. I want to say this real quick. Mickey Lolich passed away yesterday, and Mickey Lolich is one of those guys that's not in the Hall of Fame, but he was a great pitcher, mostly for the Tigers. And I want to read in 1968, he wound up being the hero of that World Series. It was the Cardinals and the Tigers. And you had Denny McLain, who won 31 games that year. I don't think we'll ever see that again. And you figured he would be the hero of the World Series, but he didn't pitch that well in the World Series. And then he goes up against Bob Gibson in Game 7, and Lolich wins the game 4-1. So get this, he pitched 3 games in that World Series, 7-game series, and he pitched 27 innings. So what does that tell you? He had 3 complete games. He was 3-0 with a 1.67 ERA, and he outdueled Bob Gibson in Game 7. In all fairness, I think it was in the 8th inning of that game, and Kurt Flood misplays a fly ball in center field, goes over his head, and that's how the Tigers went ahead. But Lolich was great. And check this out. That year in 68, he was 17-9 with a 3.19 ERA. In 69, he's 19-11 with a 3.14. But then you skip over to 1971. He was 25 and 14, 25 and 14 with a 2.92 ERA. He was an all-star. Didn't win the Cy Young that year. I should have looked up who did. The next year he's 22 and 14, and then his career starts to slip a little bit. And at the end of the 1975 season, he's traded to the Mets for Rusty Staub, and this is what a lot of people start to remember him for, at least in New York. Rusty Staub was a very popular player. Rusty Staub in 75 was the first Met to get over 100 RBIs in a season. And he had a really good year, but the Mets, he was coming up on the end of his contract, and the Mets didn't want to pay him, and they traded him straight up for Mickey Lolich. And Mickey Lolich didn't have a good year. It wasn't a terrible year because the Met team wasn't that great, if I remember right. He was 8-13 with a 3.22 ERA, but he hated it in New York, and he was very vocal about that. The fans booed him mercilessly, partially because he just pitched okay, but partially also because they traded him for a very popular player in Rusty Staub, so they were expecting a lot. The Mets then dumped him off on the Padres. The last 2 years of his career, he didn't do too much, but I thought it was very memorable. He died yesterday at the age of 85. Not anything you would remember from, of Mickey Lolich, but not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, interestingly enough. His career, he finished 217 and 191 with a 3.44 ERA, which would get a lot of people in the Hall of Fame these days, but he's not in. And I think I don't know if his time on the Veterans Committee passed or not. Anyway, a lot to get into, right? So much trades happened the last few days in the NBA. Knicks and Denver. Knicks have now won 8 straight. We'll talk all about that. But first part of our show is going to be all about the Super Bowl. And you've got a new baseball chart to share, which I can't wait. We've got some inspiration. Are you ready to go?
Let's get into it.
All right.
This episode of Sports on the Positive Tip is brought to you by the Tavern Coffee House. Attention, coffee lovers! Are you craving the perfect cup of coffee to start your day? Well, look no further than the Tavern Coffee House. It's located at 12302 Buckeye Road in Cleveland, Ohio. You can also check them out and order your coffee at thetaverncoffee.com.
Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny and
Kenny squared.
with the Sports on the Positive Tip podcast. Kenny, so much going on in the world of sports as the seasons doesn't feel like the seasons are changing because I'm sure it's still really cold there. It's really cold here still, but as we now wind up football, NFL football, and we now shift to the spotlight on the NBA, spring training and baseball getting ready to start, which means the World Baseball Classic is coming right behind it. And then what happens right around in there is March Madness. I have to start watching, and so do you. We have to start watching some college basketball games because I honestly could not have a good conversation about college basketball right now. But let's start with the Super Bowl on Sunday, Kenny. I'm excited about this game. I think it's going to be competitive. I think it's going to be fun. I think you got two teams with nothing to lose here. I think they're going to play loosey-goosey. I think you're going to see some big plays. I'm not even sure who I like. I guess I lean more on the Seahawks because I'm really rooting for Donald. But this version of the Patriots is really easy to like, in my opinion. I like Drake May. I think he's turned into an excellent quarterback. I really love Mike Vrabel and his story that's built. Um, I love their defensive lineman who is just phenomenal. But there's something special, I think, about this Seahawks team as well. So I'm going to turn it over to you and break it down for us and tell us who you like.
I like the Seahawks by a little bit. Um, Honestly, I think this game could go. Now, obviously, Super Bowls, anything could happen. But I can see this game going one of three ways. It's either close and the Seahawks win, close and the Patriots win, or the Seahawks blow them out. I don't see a blowout because I think it's really hard to blow someone out in the Super Bowl, especially a team like the Patriots who haven't been blown out at all this year.
Yeah.
Um, but I look at first of all, Drake May has not played well in these playoffs. Now, probably part of that is because of the defenses he's been playing, but he's had one of the biggest drop-offs in quarterback rating completion percentage from regular season to postseason in NFL history.
Hmm.
It's
Wow.
been a very big drop-off. Now he's faced three top five defenses, so it makes sense. Um, but I think when it comes Sam Darnold has faced harder opponents throughout the season. So him facing a tough defense like the Patriots defense has been, I think he can overcome it. I think it'll be tougher for Drake May to do so.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring game. I think it's going to be a much more of a defensive battle. But I do think the Seahawks end up on top.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I didn't realize that May had that type of drop off. But like you said, I definitely give him a pass in the championship game in that snow second half. But I mean, he faced some great defenses, and he's facing a great defense here with the Seahawks. Um, I think I read somewhere, Kenny, that there's still 13 players on this Patriots team held over from the Bill Belichick actually era, which is not that long ago. With Belichick's only a couple of years ago, but were in their last Super Bowl, and I didn't think it would be that high. But um, does that count for anything? The Pats do have some players there, and 13 I think is a lot that do have that Super Bowl experience because it's an odd week, right? Because it's 2 weeks and not one. There's so many things that are different. The starting time is weird. Um, is that
Halftime.
yeah, halftime is going to be forever with Bad Bunny. Does that factor into anything? experience?
I think the experience does help. Um, Although Bill Belichick's not a Hall of Fame head coach, so I don't know if that matters as much.
That's just
Um,
crazy. Yeah.
but I do think that like at least you can look to those guys and say, "Hey, I've been here. This is what to expect," because it is very different. Like the atmosphere is different. The start time is weird, like you said. The halftime, like the longer gap in halftime. So I think having that will help, especially for everybody else that's ever been
Yeah.
there. And I guess that could give a little bit of advantage to the Pats because I'm assuming not a lot of Seahawks players can say the same.
Yeah.
I forgot who it was. Is it Tyler Lockett, maybe? That he
Yeah.
came to the Seahawks the year after they last made the Super Bowl,
Right.
and this year was his first year not on the team,
That was,
which kind of stinks
yeah,
for
I
him.
saw that. That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think, this was interesting that Sam Donald said, and I'm leaning more Seahawks because I'm really rooting for Sam Donald. No bitterness that, the Jets cut, sent him packing, not cut him, but traded him to Carolina. Um, and I'll just give this away now. My inspiration is Jim Plunkett, who you guys have heard me compare him to, but I'm going to go a little deeper in the Plunkett story. But Donald was a backup on the 49ers team that went to the Super Bowl a few years back. And someone asked him, did that help him? And he said, yeah, to be able to just experience it and all the things you just said about, the halftime and everything. He said he feels like it's made him more ready for what's to come, on Sunday. So I'm leaning Seahawks. I think it's going to be an excellent game. I mean, we've seen some great games over the last few years, especially. Does feel a little bit weird to not have the Chiefs there, or the Eagles or the 49ers, but I think it's fun to have a couple of different teams. And it's weird because it seems like it's not that long ago. When was the last Patriots? Was it 2018, 2019? Was
I
the
think
last time?
18.
2018. So it's been 7 years for them. And it's sort of a new iteration of them. Mike Vrabel, I think, will get his team prepared because I think he played in three, won two, and they lost one with him on the team. And he's trying to accomplish something. He's already accomplished something no one has ever accomplished, right? He's taken a team as a coach in the same team that he played for to the Super Bowl, and then if he wins it, that'll be quite the accomplishment. So I'm looking forward to a great game. I think the ratings are going to be through the roof because the weather's supposed to be bad again. East, when I say bad, just super, super cold again on Sunday. And probably throughout the East and Midwest, it's going to be like that. So people are going to be glued to their TV anyway. I wanted to hit one other NFL story with you.
Um,
Yeah,
Real quick too.
please. Yeah.
So one of my favorite Mike Vrabel stats in his career, he had 12 receptions. Every single one was caught for a touchdown. So that's
Yeah.
fun.
I had forgotten that they used to always line him up as an eligible receiver. And he did that off. I didn't realize it was 12 times. That's a lot. Vrabel was a good player. I mean, those linebackers on those Pat teams were really good with Teddy Bruschi. And I mean, those are just really good teams. And Belichick did, I thought, a masterful job replacing when those guys retired and moved on, replacing them with still good players. Kenny, the coaching carousel now, it looks like it's going to be complete. The Raiders haven't officially named it, but it looks like they're going with offensive coordinator from the Seahawks. But every other coaching vacancy has now been filled, and I think it was totally nine. Was it nine or 10?
10.
It was 10 that was open, right? And this story was brought back up with Roger Goodell, and I didn't think Goodell gave a good answer, nor was he prepared, which was kind of weird. He had to know that that question was coming, right? I didn't think he didn't seem too prepared to answer it. But that is the whole Rooney Rule and African American coaches. One minority coach, Robert Saleh, and I'm glad he got a second chance. I think he deserved it. With the Titans, he's Lebanese American, and but there were no African American coaches that got a shot this time around. And I think the stat, if you want to call it a stat, that got to me that I sent you was when the Rooney Rule went in 2003. There were three African American coaches, and if everything stays now going into the 2026-27 season, there'll be three African American coaches: Aaron Glenn, um, Todd Bowles, and the coach's name on the Texans, Domingo Ryans.
D'Amico Ryans.
Nico Ryans are the only three. There were several that we thought got passed over, right? Like Byron Leftwich, Eric Bieniemy, um, even Raheem Morris or Vance Joseph, who was the defensive coordinator of the Broncos, and they had top five defense, right, in the league. Um, I don't, and so I don't know that the Rooney Rule. I'm sure we've had seasons where there's been more than three African American coaches, and I think you and I are on the same page that just hire the best coach. But um, it seems to be hard for African American coaches to get a second shot. Now with that being said, Raheem Morris did get a second shot, and also with the Falcons. And also, Mike McDaniel did take himself out of the running for the Browns job, right? So, I want to be fair there. You and I both thought he would have been a really good fit there for the Browns, but they thought otherwise. But we said this last week, right, that their hire was a little bit odd. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I think hire the best person, but there doesn't seem a rhyme or reason to the path, right? Every year it seems like a bunch of coordinators do get shots, but it doesn't seem like a lot of the African American coordinators get a shot, especially the ones that have been really successful. Now, I should throw in Brian Flores there. While the Vikings didn't have a great season, their defense was one of the top, was in the top 10, and he's a defensive coordinator, right? So, anyway, I've rambled a little bit. What's your take on this, and how does the NFL go forward?
Well, this might be a little, I don't have evidence to back this up, but it does kind of seem, because you mentioned Raheem Morris. I'll throw out a couple other names. Gerard Mayo, who,
Yeah,
to be fair, wasn't that good. Antonio Pierce, who also probably shouldn't have gotten hired. Those are three black coaches that were one and done. And like part of it, I understand. Like I think all of those guys, you can make the argument that they probably shouldn't have been hired. Like Gerard Mayo, if he was still the head coach of the Patriots wouldn't be at the Super Bowl.
no,
Let's be
I
honest.
agree. Yeah,
Raheem Morris probably shouldn't have gotten fired as quickly as he did.
yeah,
Um, Antonio Pierce probably shouldn't have gotten hired to start with. He just had a good end of the season as an intern. But I think the bigger issue is that the Rooney Rule doesn't really help in the way that it was intended to help. Because what ends up happening is you have the guy that you want to hire, but then you get your proverbial black guy to interview him just to say that you have fulfilled the Rooney Rule. Um, so it seems like a lot of the black coordinators, they're not getting actual like shots. They're just like there to check off a box. I think that's what happened with Eric Bieniemy a lot. And then it started getting around that, oh, well, he's not really a great interviewer. Well, yeah, because you don't really care about whether or not you're going to hire him. You're just trying to check off the box to say that you can hire whoever.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I don't know what the solution is. Because like I do think that the way that it's set up now is broken. Um, because you're back where you were 20, 25 years ago. And it's also it's interesting that in a league where 70-ish% of your players are minorities, most of them black, um, you don't have as many head coaches. Now, obviously, like that high might be different. There's also no black owners, which that you can't force that. You can't force a white owner to sell to a black owner.
Right.
Like that's hard to do.
Yeah.
But I do think it's something that they have to figure out. Like I think the incentives help, but you still also you don't want to get because I think what ends up happening is a lot of the black coaches that do get a shot, it kind of feels like they're already on thin ice when they get that opportunity. Um, I'm glad that the Jets are keeping Aaron Glenn another year.
Yeah.
Because also he could have been on that long list. But also, like, Aaron Glenn had a horrible year.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
a defensive minded head coach that didn't get a single interception
Yeah.
for his defense. Like, that's an issue.
He has
But
he hasn't had a great offseason yet either,
yeah. So,
Um,
like, I think that it's something that they have to figure out, but also it's really hard. It seems like the path now to becoming a head coach is being an offensive coordinator. If you look at a lot of the people that got hired, uh, or you're like a former head coach, but like I think Todd Monken with was offensive coordinator for a while with the Ravens. Obviously, Mike McDaniel was offensive coordinator with before he was with Miami. He was
yeah.
OC with 49ers. I feel like that's usually the path, and maybe they should focus more on hiring black offensive coordinators. But I don't know.
Maybe.
It's a hard issue.
And it's an uncomfortable issue, to be honest, to talk about, right? Because it's uncomfortable for us, and we're African American. But I can say this definitively. I don't believe, and I think you're on the same page. I don't believe anyone should be hired just because they're African American, right?
Yeah,
But I think when you line it up and you're comparing apples to apples, um, is there, and I'm not saying there is, I'm just asking the question, is there that point where a owner or a general manager, and we should point out that there are a few African American general managers in the NFL, which is awesome, right? Um, but should they, just if you've got apples to apples, or are you not hiring this other person because they're African American? Now, no one would ever say that out loud, but are they thinking that, behind closed doors, or are they thinking that in their mind? I don't know. But I do think that 3 out of 32, there's something there that, is not right. What it is, I don't know. And again, uh, this is not a commercial on DEI or anything like that. Like I said, I think definitively hire the best coach, but I think there's some good coaches out there that are overlooked. Now, here's the last thing I'll say. Um, it doesn't have to be necessarily young, because both of us said this last week that Todd Monken there in Cleveland was an odd hire. We didn't say it was a bad hire, right? But I remember Bruce Arians not getting a shot until he was in his 60s, right? And I think where his name started to come up was when he was the interim coach in with the Colts, right? And he did a great job there. Their coaches, whose name is escaping me, he had cancer, and Arians took over there, and then he got his shot with Tampa, and he wins the championship, and Bruce Arians at that time was probably in his mid 60s. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, while Monken was scratching our head because we thought they'd go with Jim Schwartz, who's not a young guy either, or they would go with Mike McDaniel, we felt like it was an odd hire, and we did mention his age, which doesn't seem to be the norm in coaches getting a shot for the first time, right? It's usually the really younger guys in their 30s, even, getting that shot for the first time. So I guess here's my point, is that a good coach could come from all over the spectrum. Mike McCarthy, I don't know what his age is off the top of my head. He's not a young pup. He's been around the block a couple of times, and I think the Steelers hired the best guy, that was available. We had been advocating for him. So I think that it's more of a not looking outside the box type of thing. We would have probably killed the hire if Buffalo had hired Philip Rivers, right? Just like we did. And I love Jeff Saturday on TV now, but just like we did when the Colts hired Jeff Saturday, we're like, what? You bring a guy out of a TV booth? But I do think there's something to be said about really, I do admire that the Browns didn't care that Monken is 63 years old and hadn't gotten a shot yet. We think he's going to be the best fit for our team. So I think that NFL owners really, and I would say more the GMs. I guess, Kenny, let me ask you this question to end. How involved do you think NFL owners are in the hiring of a coach? Or does that just depend on the team?
I think it depends on the team.
Yeah.
Because like I see the Browns, I feel like at times Jimmy Haslam kind of
Yeah.
swoops in there and says like, "This is what I want." Like I
Yeah.
think that's why Shador is on the team.
Yeah.
Um, but I think also with some, it's like, oh, I'll just kind of let the GM do it. Like I feel like with the Giants also, I think that was more owner driven than GM driven. Because I don't know that press conference with Joe Shane looked like he was scared he was going to get fired. So
Yes, this is true. So it's a great point, right? I think so. Like Dan Rooney, right, from the Rooney Rule, it wasn't him; it was his dad, right? That they made the rule after. Um, I think he stays as uninvolved as possible, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have coaches staying there for 19 years and for 20 years. Um, I don't think he meddles at all. I think, did he put, I mean, we don't know this, right? Did he put in a call to his GM and say, hey, we should go get Mike McCarthy? Maybe he did, but, um, and I think the Giants, and I'm mentioning the Giants because there's still probably about 10 of these teams that are old school owners, right? That have been there forever. God bless them. That's fine, right? But they still run their teams a little old school. Like the Packers kept Matt LaFleur, which I think was great. I mean, the guy's been an excellent coach, but the Packers don't fire coaches quickly, right? They've been owned, they're now like publicly owned. They have been for a long time, but the same family has kind of owned them forever. Same like the Bears, right? With the Hallis family, although they fire coaches relatively quick, right? They seem like they got a good one now, um, but the Maras kind of, I'm sure, jumped in here, right? John Mara, like you said, he, probably sent the private plane to go get Harbaugh, get him over here, But then if they know they're going to hire Harbaugh and then I'm just going to put the name out, Raheem Morris, right? Then they still interview Raheem Morris just to check the box. That's what you were talking about earlier. And that's wrong, because I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that this guy's the best coach out there possible. We're gonna do all we can to hire him. I'm not even gonna interview anybody else. Oh, we're gonna get a big fine, so we better bring somebody in that's African American. I think that's silly, right? So I think that Goodell. Go ahead, man.
I think that the Giants probably did that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
obvious from day one they
Yeah.
wanted John Harbaugh,
Oh
but
yeah,
they did interview Antonio Pierce,
they
like
did. Yeah. Yeah.
which they were like, "Hey, you're our boy. You'll just help us check off the box, right?
Ex-Giant.
Okay, your
Yeah.
interview's done."
Yeah. 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 Anyway, I think it's a problem that's not going to go away. And I think, Goodell, a lot of people kill him. This is the last thing I'll say on this, and we'll move over to basketball. A lot of people kill him and um, Rob Manfred, Adam Silver, pick a commissioner, right? The commissioner for the NHL for hockey's been there forever, too, They're in tough. That's an impossible job to have, I think, as commissioner. And Goodell, they pay him. He's by far the highest paid commissioner. I think he's making 35 million a year, something like that. God bless him. I don't, disparage that, but technically he works for the owners. And so it's hard for him to say, yeah, these guys got to get on board. What's going on? You know what I mean? He's in an impossible situation, right? And he probably maneuvers it well better than he did, let's say, 10 years ago, the whole Ray Rice thing and when all that's on. He's probably done a much better job kind of maneuvering things a little bit more. But I think that the commissioner also has influence with the owners. And so if the commissioner leans very strongly one way on any topic, not just, this one that we're talking about, but on any topic, I think he can get the owners to kind of buy in, and maybe Goodell is not doing that enough. Certainly Adam Silver, listen, the NBA does not have that problem in terms of African American coaches, and I don't know how many are at the time, but I guarantee you there's more than 10, and so they don't have that problem. Baseball, a little bit, I would say. But the NFL, the thing is, the NFL's had this problem off and on for years and years. So we'll see. We'll see what Goodell does. All right. Interesting day in the NBA yesterday. Interesting last couple of days. Um, but let me start here today is the trading deadline, right? Today's the 5th. And Giannis is still with the Bucks. John Moran is still with the Gridleys. Sorry. Grizzlies. Um, what's your gut here? Will they both stay put? I mean, Giannis put out something that his dream, if he had the ideal situation, would be to finish his career with the Bucks. So I don't think he'll be, crying. And this might work out as the best situation for the Knicks if he stays and then he's available in the offseason, as we talked about last week. And Ja, I was surprised they traded JJJ, right? Jaren Jackson Jr. Before they traded Ja Morant. And so first, let me get your take on Giannis and Ja. What's your gut telling you is going to happen with both of them today?
I think Giannis definitely stays put. Um, because yeah, it just I feel like they're not gonna deal him.
Huh.
They said part of the reason why Golden State went for Porzingis was because they had the impression that they weren't gonna trade Giannis. Um, I've heard a lot of people here saying, "Oh, well, maybe the Cavs can get Giannis," which I'm not as optimistic on that, but who knows? Maybe. Um, but I do lean that they're probably keeping him. I think they're probably keeping him at least through the rest of the season. Um, Ja, I kind of lean that they're keeping him. Although I don't know why you would trade Triple J and not trade Ja. So
Very, very odd. I would have thought that the Jazz would have given the same package for Ja, and Salt Lake City would have been an ideal place for Ja to play. See, I don't know how much trouble he would have gotten into spending half of his time in Salt Lake City. So that one surprised me when you sent that over to me that they had traded Triple J. I'm like, why didn't they trade Ja to Utah? They would have probably gotten the same package, right?
yeah, and yeah, like Utah in the middle of Mormon country. There's not many places to go
He
for.
wouldn't have gotten into trouble there. Um, but also maybe the Jazz were like, maybe yeah, we'll take Triple J, who's never been in trouble a day in his life, instead of this guy. Even though this guy's the better player. Um, I have no idea what's going to happen with Giannis, especially after he said his dream is to stay in Milwaukee. And it seemed like now teams maybe cleared space to try to get him because you and I texted a little bit about this yesterday, but it seems like some teams you could see clearly their plan, and I want to come to the Cavs in a second, and some teams you can't really see their plan, right? Like for me, the Hornets are going for it. They're playing extremely well. They've got a good core of young players, and they had a guy like Kobe White, one of the best scorers in the league, to that team without giving up a ton. It sounds like the Hornets are like, all right, let's start to make some moves here. Seems like the Hawks are going to try to still stay competitive, with some of the moves that they made, right? Um, but the Bulls, I'm like, they're starting over. Either that or they're just clearing out a lot of salary space to see if they can fit Giannis in. But gosh, I know they've got some draft choices. They don't have a ton of players that they can. What player could they trade now? Because they traded their two best players. One to the Celtics and obviously into the Hornets. Um, and so that brings me to the Cavaliers. And I'm scratching my head as to what their plan is. Is it just to go all in now? Now, I don't want to put down James Harden. I've said that I think this guy's a great player, and he really hasn't lost many steps for someone that's been in the league for 17 years. But it almost seems like we know how this ends, right? He gets to the playoffs and then he fades out. Um, Unless it's going to be different. He's been to the finals once with OKC years ago. Um, but I didn't quite get trading a really excellent young player like Darius, to the Clippers. I totally understand the Clippers trading him, even though they were cooking, as you said. These are both two teams that have now warmed up. And I think that did I see that they were 21-6 or something like that? The Clippers in their last like 27, 28 games, they started off horribly, but they've been playing great with Harden right in the center of it. And I think part of why they're playing great is because Kawhi Leonard is playing every night, which we find surprising, but he's a great player. What's it like there? And oh, let me before I ask you this question, they also got rid of Lonzo Ball, which that surprised me. I thought he was a good bench fit, and it seems like he's not going to play in Utah, and so he's going to be out there. Somebody will pick him up, I believe. So what say you? What's the feeling there in Cleveland, and what are the Cavs doing?
Well, I'll start with the Clippers side of this. I'd seen a guy, I think he said, if the Clippers win 14 of their next 17 games, I'll eat this tweet. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. And he posted a video of himself eating the tweet. So that was fun. Um, a
So what's
couple of the Clippers,
17 that they won? That's a great run. Yeah, 14 to
yeah, they've won 16 of their last 20. Like
16 to 20. Okay. Wow.
they've been great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but like so from the Clippers stance, I still don't really get it because like your team is finally gelling and everything's going well. You have a great head coach, like it's making sense. From the Cavs side, I didn't get it because like you're getting rid of a very good young player for a toxic all-star. I think it's okay to say that about James Harden.
Yeah.
I have seen a couple more reactions and I don't like it, but I understand it more from the Cavs side. Because like talent for talent, James Harden is better than Darius
Oh,
Garland.
absolutely.
Um, like he's a better ball handler. He can take over a game, and pairing him with Donovan Mitchell can make a very special backcourt. So from that, I get it. Also, Darius Garland's been suffering some injuries the last few years, so it's like this guy's a little too injury prone. We need to kind of
Right.
move off of him. So from that perspective, I get it. If you're looking at this window where this year the East is still kind of wide open. Like I know we're going Knicks, you got the Pistons, but like it's not out of the realm of possibility for the Cavs, especially with James Harden, to finish at the 3 seed and then kind of see what you go from there. However, getting to the playoffs is one thing. James Harden in the playoffs is not good.
Yeah.
Like he'll have his moments, but like you look at the history of game sixes and sevens, a lot of them he has been awful.
Yeah.
Like the one that sticks out when Chris Paul got hurt and they missed 38 straight baskets against Golden State,
Yeah.
including him, who I believe went 0 for 11. Like it's to me where it's so confusing is like your goal is to make a win now move so you can win a championship, but you're getting a guy that's never won a championship and gets worse in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but then my biggest fear is that they're going to give him a crazy extension. Please don't
Yeah.
let this contract run out and let him walk. Because let's look at the history of James Harden here. Gets traded from OKC to Houston, which that made sense. You can't have three superstars and pay them all. He has Dwight Howard. That doesn't work out with him. He gets Chris Paul for a minute. That does kind of work, but then they can never get over the hump. He then is sick and tired of it, comes into training camp in a fat suit, plays horrible, and demands a trade. So then
Yeah.
he goes to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Brooklyn, things are kind of working out. They only win one playoff series. Kyrie doesn't get vaccinated, so they never really have the full chemistry together. So then he gets sick of there and then asks to be traded to Philadelphia. So he's with the 76ers. Things seem to be going well. He really loves Daryl Morey, who was with him in Houston. And then he, in the offseason, he's doing an Adidas thing and is telling Chinese kids who might not understand him, Daryl Morey is a liar and I'll never play for him again.
I forgot about that. That was awful. Yeah.
So then he gets traded to the Clippers. And then he's like, this is where I want to stay. Like, I'm from California. Like, I don't plan on leaving anywhere. And then during one of their best stretches in that time with the Clippers, he's like, I want to go. He says that he didn't ask for a trade, but I don't
Right.
know if I believe that.
Yeah.
So, like, you're bringing that player that has that type of history. Like, hey, if you're going to take him for the next year and a half and ball out, great. Don't give this guy an extension.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like a Cleveland Cavalier move, right? Now, I want to be fair with Harden. You broke it down beautifully. I've forgotten some of this stuff, especially where he's at the kids camp and he's bad mouthing his GM. Um, when he came to the Nets is where I thought his game changed because James Harden used to just shoot. That was it. He'd just fire up a shot from anywhere. He never made a shot that he didn't like. And it didn't matter if he was like 0 for 11. He'd just keep shooting, you know. Um, but I thought when he came to the Nets is when he started to uh, round his game. And right now he averages 25 points and 8 assists. 8 assists is pretty darn good at night. And I thought that that's where his game changed a little bit, where I was like, okay, I like that. But nothing changed to your point in terms of the postseason, which is that has to be what the Cavs are eyeing, right? I would think, is that running the postseason. So, is him and Mitchell just, hey, let them score 60 points and, between the two of them. And then, let's let everything else fall as it is. The playoffs is so different, and Harden has never risen his game to that, and which makes that move, I think, just really, really odd. But to your other point of going forward, which is why I think the Celtics made a move. I mean, they traded a pretty good player in Anthony Simons, right, to get Vujicic from the Bulls, and so I think that was their move to say, okay, you know what, we're going to still go for it too, because the East is wide open. What did you make of the Anthony Davis trade and kind of ending this whole thing? I think he played only 29 games with Dallas, and right now he's still hurt. Um, but the Wizards have, probably looking towards next year, right? Because Trey Young is hurt as well. But now you pair Trey Young with Anthony Davis, and they have actually some pretty good young players. Um, do you think the Wizards will make some noise next year? I don't think they're going to do anything this year, but do you think they'll make some noise next year? No, you're saying
No,
no.
neither of these guys can stay healthy.
Yeah,
The big three of Cooper Flag, Kyrie Irving, and Anthony Davis played 0 games together.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I can't trust that that these guys are going to stay healthy because Trey Young, like for the most part, he's been sort of
Yeah.
healthy, but like I
Is-
don't know.
yeah.
Also, the Mavs just like doubled down on like the worst trade in NBA history.
I,
Like you traded a generational talent in Luka Doncic for an injury-prone Anthony Davis, and then flipped him for Chris Middleton, who no shade to Chris Middleton, but the guy
right.
shot. Like, come on, you could have done better.
Yeah. How long before Kyrie comes back and says, you know what, I want out too? But it's past the trading deadline. Kyrie's been pretty quiet there, which has been good. But I would have thought Dallas would have been patient and wait that out and see what Davis and Kyrie could do, together because when that trade first came, we all killed it, right? But we're like, well, wait a second. If Davis is healthy and you team him with Kyrie, and then when they got Cooper, even though we knew Kyrie would be out first part of the year, right? We're like, wait a second. Now that you got something, you got three outstanding players when they're healthy, right? But I guess Dallas like press reset. They're like, we're just gonna start all over again. And you could tell something was coming with Jason Kidd, how he went off and on that in that press conference the other day, and that's very unlike him. He usually is very calm, very cool, but he's probably feeling the pressure there, and he's probably like, now get me out of here. Why am I coaching this team now?
Could have
Uh,
taken the next job. Although
exactly.
I like Mike Brown, but
I should have taken the next job. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we listen, Mike Brown made the adjustment. Let's get to the Knicks then. I don't think there's anything else in the trade deadline we need to cover. We'll just keep an eye on what happens with Giannis and Ja today. Um, the Knicks have righted the ship. I think we could comfortably say that, right? After losing 9 of 11 and kind of having that lull after the NBA Cup, they've been playing great. I mean, this is a better stretch than they were at the beginning of the year. And that I didn't realize that was their first overtime game of the season last night. Yeah, I was really
uh-oh.
surprised. I thought they had played a couple, but no, that was their first overtime game. Denver's going to be dangerous. Let me start there real quick, and I want to hear your take on the Knicks. Denver is going to be dangerous, man, when they get healthy. Because I forgot they have one of my favorite players, Cam Johnson, on their bench, who's hurt right now, but will be coming back probably in the next week or so. And Jokic wasn't 100% last night. Boy, he was terrible from 3-point range. he still had a triple double over 30 points. I think he had 16 rebounds, and he had, I think, 11 assists. I mean, the guy's just unbelievable. And Jamal Murray looks like Jamal Murray 5 years ago. I mean, he's just hitting shots from all over the place. And so I think Denver's going to be dangerous in the West. And that's not the team that people are talking about. Of course, it's only about OKC, rightly so, and San Antonio, rightly so. But Denver, I think, is a much better team than the Lakers right now. And they're going to just get better as they get healthy. That being aside, what's your take here on the Knicks, who looks like aren't going to go for Giannis today? I think they would have pulled the trigger. So it looks like we're all in with Karl Anthony Towns, who's playing his butt off. Came back in last night after he gets the stitches in the eye and, plays great on the boards. And, again, he's a nightmare matchup. We saw that with the Wizards. The Wizards had nobody that could even come close to guarding him, the other night. So he takes advantage of it. He gets 30 points. And that he right now is leading the NBA in rebounding. Now, that's because Jokic hasn't played that much, but he might still hold on to that, for the year. So let's hear your take on the Knicks right now.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely have righted the ship here. And it kind of seems like because they had like the weird stuff with like Mike Brown losing the locker room and everyone getting mad at him. It
Yeah,
kind of seems like they had their dust up and like they're like, okay, we'll just get over this.
yeah,
Um, my inspiration will kind of talk a little bit about that, so stay tuned. But I do think they've righted the ship. It seems like one of the biggest things that I've noticed is their defense has kind of taken a tick up.
yeah,
Because like even
yeah,
at the beginning of the year, yeah, they were throwing down 130 a night, but like they were still giving up 115. Like they're still winning comfortably, but giving up a lot of points. But I feel like they've really cracked down on the defense. And I mean, we say it all the time, like defense wins championships. We're talking football, basketball, like having a
yeah,
having a stronger defense, I think, is a key, especially if you're trying to navigate the East here. So I think that things are looking good. I agree. I don't think they're trading for Giannis. The only way I see a Giannis to the Knicks happening is if we hit the playoffs and they're like first or second round exit. I think if they make the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't see them trading for Giannis though.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean Mike Brown also, I guess it's a it's got to be a good testament to his ability to kind of regain control of the locker room and kind of continue to help navigate some of the different issues. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's been quite the ride, but also like at this point we're going to keep moving forward and we're going to keep doing what we need to do.
Yeah, yeah, fun to watch. OG Anunoby. I mean, this is the best stretch I've seen him play because he's always been great defensively, but his offensive game has been amazing. And Landry Shamet, listen, when McBride comes back, who we love, McBride's an excellent player off the bench, but Shamet, let's just face it, man, is taking a lot of his minutes. I'm not sure what's going on with Jordan Clarkson. I'm being a little picky, but I think the reason why I'm being picky because as you start to get deep into the playoffs, you need a veteran like him. He started last night, and then he didn't play as much, last night. But I think he'll be okay. Mikal Bridges has just been okay through this stretch as well. But Brunson took the game over last night. How fun was that watching him and Murray just go at each other last night? It was just fun to watch. It was almost like these last couple of games at the Garden, that Sunday night game against the Lakers and the game last night against Denver, it almost felt like it had an NBA Finals feel to it. You could tell it was a big game, both on national television, and the Knicks rose to the occasion in both those games. And so this is going to be fun to watch. Now it gets serious Friday night, right? Because Friday night we take on Detroit, who just smoked us, a couple of weeks ago. So I think it's going to be big for the Knicks to show up here, look Detroit in the eye, and say, yeah, okay, we felt it last time. We're going to get you back, and guess what? We're probably going to see you in June, right, or in May, in the conference finals, and we're going to be ready. So I'm looking for the Knicks to really show up against the Pistons. I think if there's a statement game, it's not so much against the Lakers. That's not their rival. It's not much against Denver. That's not their rival. it's against their rival right now, which are the Detroit Pistons. What say you?
I agree. I think it's a big game against the Pistons. I also like you kind of felt the electricity with it. Also, another fun fact: it's the Lakers Knicks game was the highest rated non-Christmas game in like 20, 25 years or something like that. A
Wow.
lot of people really like to watch it,
Yeah, I
and
believe that.
also the Knicks dominated, so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's fun.
Yeah, this Sunday night basketball, NBC, and it has a big feel to it. You know what I mean? It felt like it was a big game. They could, and they've got the double header, so they're taking the whole night, on Sunday nights, and then before you know it, they'll have Sunday night baseball going too. So that's pretty smart of them. They've really found a nice niche there. All right, let me. Um, I wrote down the name Zach Gallen. Let's turn over to baseball now. He's kind of the last now big free agent, right? Because Luis Arraez signed 1 year. Were you surprised Eugenio Suarez only got 1 year after hitting 49 homers and knocking in 118 RBIs? I know he only batted 228, but were you surprised he only got 1 year?
Yeah, since I think 1970, there's only been two third basemen to have multiple 49 plus home run seasons.
And it's him.
Eugenio Suarez and A-Rod.
I,
Um, like the guy's a home run here. I know defensively he's not great, but like only 1 year now. Granted, if the Reds kind of tank, they could probably turn that into some good prospects. But come on,
yeah, yeah. Well, you got Terry Francona. Remember last year? I mean, he did get them to the playoffs. You know, uh,
yeah,
and so, but and Araza, I think that's a great move for the Giants. But he also got a 1 year deal, and we talked about him last week how they don't value a guy that hits over 300 every year anymore. It's really odd to me how baseball has changed. What about Zach Gallen? He mentioned that his dream would be to go back to the Diamondbacks. And I would guess that, the Diamondbacks will probably bring him back on a 1 year deal or something like that, or opt out. Are you surprised that he hasn't gotten? I know he didn't have a great year last year, but he's been a really good pitcher. Are you surprised he doesn't have a home yet?
yeah. Especially in a league where you really want as much starting pitching as you possibly can get. I mean, look at the
Yeah.
Dodgers. Like that's why they went out and got a whole bunch of starting pitchers this past
Yeah.
offseason. Like,
Yeah.
um, but I'm sure it won't take long for somebody's ace to go down with Tommy John surgery the second week of spring training, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they'll give him a contract.
It would be smart for the D-backs to bring him back because who's coming back in another month or two into the season would be Corbin Burns. We forgot that they
Yeah.
signed him, to a big contract, and he'll be coming back, and that pitching rotation will be formidable, especially if they bring him back. Now you had a take on the whole Framber Valdez, Tarek Skubal thing. Valdez got paid 38 million a year for 3 years. Valdez waited it out, and he's the highest paid left-handed pitcher ever. Now, as much as I like him, I'm not sure he deserves that. But the money, who cares? At least we as fans don't care. I didn't think that the Tigers had that type of stash. Otherwise I said they would have locked up Skubal. But you had a take on that. What's your take on that with Framber and Skubal?
So Scooble and arbitration, like they're heading towards a hearing. Um, the Tigers' offer for him was $19 million. Just for reference, I believe when the Yankees in their last year of arbitration with Juan Soto, or his last year, I should say, I believe they gave him 31 million or something like that. Tarek Skubal is a two-time defending Cy Young Award winner. He should be the highest paid lefty, and you're giving someone double of what you're offering him. Like to me, at that point, you might as well just trade the guy. I don't know why the Tigers are being so disrespectful to a guy that has been a big reason why they've been good the last 2 years.
Yeah. I'd love to have the camera on him when Framber reports for spring training and they meet each other. Because he's going to be like, my man, thank you so much. Because if you made 38 million, I'm going to probably make 45 million a year, you know? Um, it's such a good point. And you would think they would sign him before they go to arbitration because, less and less and less players go to arbitration, go through the whole process, because think about this. it's where a team is sitting across from you and they tell you all the reasons why they don't want to pay you, um, what you're asking for. Therefore, with Scuba, you know how picky they probably have to be. Saying, yeah, you know what? You walk two guys in the eighth inning 10% of the time, so it's that's not headed for a good divorce, I don't think, with him and the Tigers. But I agree with you. I don't know why the Tigers just don't, go ahead and pull it on that. All right, are you ready to go over? You got a little baseball chart here. I shouldn't say little because it's great. You ready for me to share that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
So I made a tier list of how everyone's offseason went. This is not standings. This is not how I think teams will finish. Um, okay, these 8 teams had a weird offseason. Tampa Bay, they had traded guys like Josh, Brandon Lau. I didn't understand their offseason.
Yeah.
Um, Same with the Marlins trading, like their biggest one was Edward Cabrera trading him away.
Yeah.
Like it just kind of seems a little bizarre. Washington too. Mackenzie Gore is a controllable, excellent starter, and you got rid of him. I don't get it. And like I went more in depth in like why I placed them where they are. I'm just going to talk about the highlights. The Brewers, best team in baseball. You trade away your ace. I know you're happy about it because he went to
Yes.
the Mets, but
Yes.
Freddie Peralta is a great pitcher. I don't understand. The Cardinals, I guess they're resetting. I don't know, but trading away Nolan Arenado, they traded away Wilson Contreras, Sonny Gray. So I'm assuming that they're kind of like we're just gonna start this whole thing from scratch.
And Brendan Donovan the other day.
Yeah.
Surprising. Yeah.
Um, the Padres, I don't understand what they like. I know you're looking up at the Dodgers and they're doing really well, but I feel like the Padres probably could have done more, but they didn't really do anything. The Rockies, I mean, they're the Rockies. And then also the Twins.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Wish we did more. I think these teams are like kind of like, oh, I wish we did more. Now, I would probably move up Detroit because I made this before the Framber signing. But Kansas City, I don't know why they haven't really done a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like they got Matt Strom, which I guess is fun. They had a small trade with the Brewers. I don't know. I feel like they're a team that should be more in contention, especially you have a guy like Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah.
They haven't done a lot.
Yeah.
Detroit, like I said, I would have probably bumped them up a little bit, but I don't know. Now their rotation looks good. I think they've probably now done enough to say, okay, I think we're better, especially like assuming they're keeping Scooble. I'm assuming that Scooble might go at the trade deadline. It sounds like if I'm Tarek Scooble, I'm not signing
Yeah.
back. And if that's the case, Detroit, you should probably just trade him. Um, then you got the Angels. I think the Angels, they always wish that they did more. There's not really a lot there.
Yeah.
Houston as well. I mean, Amai is a fun signing, but I don't know if they did enough. Same with Chicago. Like you saw your division rival trade away their ace. Alex Bregman's a good signing, but they probably could have done more to kind of take that leap. Same with the Reds. Like Suarez is great, but that's kind of it. We talked about the Diamondbacks with Zach Gallen. I don't know. They probably could have done more.
Yeah.
Um, Next year didn't move the needle, but is that okay? I think there's a few teams that didn't really do a ton, but that might be fine. The Yankees is one of those. Basically, they're just bringing everyone back, and I don't know if that's going to be enough. Especially you look at the tier ahead of them. There's a lot of teams in their division that improved,
Yeah.
but I mean, they won 94 games last year, which was tied for the most in the American League. They've won 94 games each of the last 2 seasons. So we'll see. And also, you're getting back Garrett Cole. You're going to get Carlos Rodon at some point. You'll have a full year of Cam Schlittler. So the rotation should be really good. Hopefully, Dominguez and/or Jones can improve Ben Rice with regular playing time. So we'll see. The Guardians, they didn't really do a ton either. because even like you would think that they would address the bullpen a little bit more, but they didn't. Um, but we'll see. They could be good. They could not be. Shout out to the A's. The A's now have four of their core players signed for the next 5 years.
Yeah,
Hopefully they don't trade them,
yeah,
but they've made some good moves. I like what they've done.
yeah,
So they didn't really like add anyone, but I think securing their core for the next half a decade, I think is going to be really good. Same with the Mariners. They didn't really add a big guy. They're keeping Josh Naylor, which I think is good for them. Um, Josh Naylor had 30 stolen bases last year, I believe,
crazy. Yeah,
which is insane.
yeah,
And then the Phillies. The Phillies really didn't do a ton either. Um, like I like the Adolis Garcia signing for them. I know losing losing their starter might be but we'll see.
yeah,
Um, much better team than last year. I think these teams like they definitely improved their roster. The defending AL champ Blue Jays. You got Dylan Cease. They got Murakami. I think
yep,
they got one of the Japanese guys. So I think that's a good move. Obviously, the Orioles with Pete Alonso. I think that automatically makes them a better team. And
yep,
also hoping that this core, these young guys will kind of take that next step. We kind of saw that towards the end of last year. You have the Red Sox. The Red Sox adding Sonny Gray, Wilson Contreras, and their latest signing, IKF. So we'll see how that works.
good
Just
bench player.
don't have him on third base
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's
with the game on the line. Also the White Sox. I think the White Sox they didn't do a ton in the offseason, but making the signings where I don't think they're gonna be the worst team ever. So good for them. Texas signing or trading for Mackenzie Gore, I think is big for them.
yeah,
The Braves, I think the Braves had a pretty good offseason.
did.
Plus, you're going to get back Spencer Strider. You'll get back Raul Acuna. They could be one of those teams that has a big bounce back season.
Yeah,
The Mets we talked about a lot, but I mean, the way that they reconstructed this roster over the last month has been incredible for them. The Pirates, they signed the first free agent that they've had that for multi-years in a decade. So
yeah,
good for them.
yeah,
I I would have really liked Framber to go there. I know they were in on him. They were
yeah,
also in a Kyle Schwarber. It would have been fun for them to land a big fish, but no one wants to go to Pittsburgh, especially
yeah,
when you can get more money somewhere else. Then also the Giants. The Giants won't get a lot of love because they are in the same division as the Dodgers, but they had a pretty good offseason. I think adding Luis Rise and a couple of the other pieces that they did, I think they'll be better. I don't
yeah.
think they'll be great, but they'll be better. And on a tier by himself, three are perfect off seasons. And a quick word on the Dodgers because a lot of people are like, oh, what they're doing is horrible. Now, the NFL offseason has started for 30 teams. I'll look to you for the Jets. The Jets, their biggest need's a quarterback, right?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure every Jet fan would sign up for Joe Burrow to be that quarterback that they get,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like, I think you get him, it's like, okay, that's a win. But then, that probably won't happen. So then you end up with, let's say, like a Kirk Cousins or a Kyler Murray or someone like that. We're like, oh, that's not who we wanted, but we'll go for it. Let's look at the Dodgers over these last three off seasons. They were 3 years ago, they were kind of like the perennial playoff team that couldn't get over the hump. And then the best player came available in free agency and they got him. That's everyone wanted Shohei Ohtani that offseason. And everyone would have signed up for it in a heartbeat. And then they get him. And then they win the World Series. And a lot of times when teams win a championship, they're like, we'll run this back. It was good enough. They're like, no, we kind of stunk on the starting pitcher front. They add Blake Snell, they add Tyler Glasnow, they add Roki Sasaki. And then just like that, they go and they win back-to-back World Series.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's still not enough because we kind of stunk in the corner outfields and our bullpen was kind of rough. So they add the best outfielder in free agent and they add the best closer on the market. And just like that, they've had three perfect off seasons.
Yeah.
And I understand that the Pirates or the Rockies or the Marlins or the Rays couldn't have signed all of the guys that they can. I don't know about that because look at the Guardians. They signed Jose Ramirez and they gave him some deferred money. Like, there's a path. Now, I think the deferment is something that needs to be addressed. Salary cap isn't going to change things. Each of the last 10 seasons has had two different guys represented in the AFC Championship game, whether it's the Patriots or the Chiefs. Um, we have a different Super Bowl this year, but the three previous Super Bowls were represented by three teams. In the NBA, we went a 4 year stretch with the same two teams making the NBA finals.
Mm,
But baseball didn't have a repeat champion for 25 years.
yeah.
Don't talk to me about how the salary cap makes it an even playing field. You still got to spend the money and you still have to create a desirable place to go.
Yeah.
The Dodgers also have the best farm system. They could have probably traded for Freddie Peralta if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So I know they'll be the cause of a lockout, and that's going to be the case. But at the same time, if your team had the off seasons that the Dodgers had, you would have been happy. I mean, the Yankees definitely didn't have that. The first year when they got Juan Soto, sure, but they wanted to try to re-sign him and couldn't. They had a great plan B, great. This year they kind of did nothing. The Mets, obviously Juan Soto last year was big. I think this year was big, but 2 years ago they could have signed a starting pitcher and they didn't.
They did.
Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of teams look at that and they're like, man, what they're doing is wrong. No, that's what you want your team to do, and they're
Yeah.
just not doing
Yeah. Yeah. And they can afford to do it, and but they're getting the right players. The Dodgers. I think you broke that down beautifully. My only small quibble is the Cubs did get Edward Cabrera, right? So I think they did do some things, but I think where you got him at is
it.
good. But you broke that down beautifully. Especially especially the Dodgers now, the evil empire, right? Um, all right, we're looking forward to spring training and the WBC. That was great. We'll post that chart out there. Are you ready for some inspiration?
Let's do it.
All right, I'll read some things here about Jim Plunkett. I've been talking about him comparing to Sam Donald. Jim Plunkett before your time. I'll just read some things, and I just like the comparison on the careers with Donald. But Donald would have to win two Super Bowls. Now, I'll say this at the beginning: Jim Plunkett and Eli Manning are the only two quarterbacks who've won two Super Bowls that aren't in the Hall of Fame. And Plunkett, I'm surprised he never went in. But Plunkett played college football for Stanford, and he won the Heisman Trophy in 1970. He was selected first overall by the New England Patriots in the 71 NFL Draft. His tenure with the Patriots was productive, but after an injury-shortened 1975 season, although the Patriots didn't win, he was traded to the 49ers. He played there 76 and 77. He was released from the 49ers after more injuries. And then he signed with the Raiders, Oakland Raiders at the time, in 1978. Initially, he was the backup. He didn't become the starting quarterback until during the 1980 season, and he led them to win the Super Bowl, where he was named the MVP. So again, you talk about 10 years just about of losing, of injuries, and he's the backup quarterback with the Raiders, and he wins the Super Bowl that next year. In '83, Plunkett again ascended from backup to starting when they relocated to Los Angeles Raiders. And so 2 years later, they win the Super Bowl again with Jim Plunkett as their quarterback. And so I already read this that he and Eli are the only two eligible quarterbacks with two Super Bowl wins as starters, not to be in the Hall of Fame. And so I think he's going to stand alone because I think Eli will get in. He was inducted into College Hall of Fame in 1990. Here's what I thought was inspirational about his life that I had kind of forgotten. He was born to Mexican American parents with an Irish German grandfather on his paternal side. Plunkett's father was a news vendor afflicted with progressive blindness who had to support his blind wife. So both his parents were blind along with their three children. So he had two other siblings. Plunkett's parents were born in New Mexico. His mother, whose maiden name was Carmen Blia, was born in Santa Fe, and his father, William Gutierrez Plunkett, was born in Albuquerque. Carmen was also of Native American ancestry. His father, William, died of a heart attack in 1969, so a year before he would win the Heisman Trophy. And so when Jim was growing up, the family's financial situation was a big problem for him. He did not like the area he lived in and often did not have money for dates, avoiding bringing friends to his house. He worked from an early age cleaning up at a gas station while in elementary school. So he had a job when he was in elementary school. Um, and he delivered newspapers as well. He bagged groceries. He worked in orchards. In his high school years, he worked during the summer. Even with that, he became an All-American football player. He showed his talent winning a throwing contest at the age of 14. At the age of 14, he threw a football over 60 yards. And so once he arrived at the school, he played quarterback and he also played defensive end for the football team. He competed in basketball, baseball, track, and wrestling, earning the California High School Individual Wrestling Championship. And he is on the Hall of Fame wall in his high school. So this guy had just this unbelievable hard upbringing, but he was just the nicest, most humblest guy. He stayed at it, and it wasn't until his 10th year where he lands in the right spot, and he wins not one but two Super Bowls with the Raiders. Jim Plunkett, an amazing guy. I compare what Sam Darnold is doing now. Sam Darnold didn't have the 10 tough years in the NFL like Plunkett did, but he had six, I think, 6 or 7, and now he's right there. And so that's why I root for the Seahawks just a little bit, because I like to see Darnold be the next Jim Plunkett. So Jim Plunkett, inspiration for today.
Wow, what a story. That's just wild.
Yeah.
Um, so my inspiration today comes from Mikhail Bridges, who he had a monster night last week. I forgot which game it was. And then someone was interviewing him after the game. He's like, yeah, like things are starting to turn around because I've realized that I need to be more coachable. Which like usually you don't see players be that vulnerable and that like open and honest. But he said like I've learned to kind of listen more to my coaches and like learn from them as opposed to just kind of doing my thing. I think that's part of what's been undergirding the Knicks this like last couple weeks here is like the willingness to be more teachable. And I think it's a good lesson for us to just say like we need to be more teachable people, because it's easy to just be like, oh, whatever, I don't need your help. I'm an NBA player and you're not. But like sometimes learning those lessons and hearing what other people have to say can be so transformative in your life. So learn from Mikhail Bridges, even though it's a guy that hasn't missed a game in like 600 plus games, like you can still learn something. So go for him.
Love that. Wow. 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 Yeah, I love that. So many lessons in that. That's great. And Bridges, well, he hasn't missed that game since high school, right? Something like that. I mean, it's incredible that he shows up every night. It really is. Awesome. I love that. We need him to average at least 20 something points though. If we're gonna win the championship. Is your expectation a championship now? Or is it just to get to the finals?
Right now, it's just to get to the finals. It depends on who they face in the championship.
Okay. All right. And so if it's OKC,
Nah, I don't give much of a shot.
all right. Okay. San Antonio,
I think they could beat San Antonio.
Denver.
I think they could beat Denver too. They've shown that. OKC is just so tough.
Yeah. Lakers.
Oh yeah, I think they could beat the Lakers.
Yeah. So based on those ratings that you said, that Adam Silver is behind the scenes licking his chops. Knicks Lakers finals. Knicks LA, New York. LeBron one last time. Boy, oh boy, everybody will be tuning in for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're rooting for that. Um, all right, son. Lots to get to next week. I'm sure we'll be past the NBA trading deadline. We'll see if anything big jumps off today. We'll be talking about the Super Bowl. I think pitchers and catchers will have reported, and so lots to do. Take us home, sir.
Alrighty, this is Kenny Squared N.
Kenny.
With Sports on the Positive Tip. We'll see you guys next week.